Hey everyone, how are we doing today? My name is Taylor Wettach, and I'm running to make sure we keep an independent watchdog in the Office of State Auditor. It's great to be out here at the Iowa State Fair. Where else can you get a deep fried double bacon corn dog? Go look at a 600-pound cow made entirely of butter and listen to some guy talk about standing up against government corruption all before lunchtime. You just can't beat it, folks. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Taylor, a talk about state auditing? That sounds so exciting. Sign me up. It sounds even more exciting than watching paint dry on the Varied Industries building. But just bear with me for a few minutes, folks, because while it might not actually sound that exciting, state auditing, actually going after folks from taking your money, ought to be a state sport, official state sport, like dodge that pothole or clipping coupons. For those of you I've not had the chance to meet, I'm a 7th generation Iowan. I'm from Muscatine, and I'm 36 years old. So yes, I am in fact younger than Chuck Grassley. Grew up in Muscatine, learning my values, the Iowa way. I learned to work hard from great teachers like my mom. Any teachers here today? Give yourselves a round of applause. Learned to listen to folks, small walks of life, as a Highview checkout boy. And I learned to work hard from those folks that led me on, and I also learned to do things the right way, especially when it's hard, from my faith and as an Eagle Scout. And my parents taught me that I had no more important responsibility than looking out for my neighbors. I saw that commitment in my grandpa's work to support his rural community while maintaining my family's century farm. And I also heard that commitment in stories of my great-grandpa Pete Wettack and his work to keep farm families afloat during the Great Depression as a Farm Security Administration supervisor. It was that Iowa upbringing, those values, that inspired me to pursue a career as an attorney, hoping to serve my country and support my community. And so as attorney, I built a track record of negotiating multi-billion-dollar complex financial matters and standing up against folks in power who are trying to rig the system, trying to corrupt the system. Unfortunately, my former firm, after it was threatened by the Trump administration, ended up getting pressured to cut a deal to do $125 million worth of free work in support of their priorities. But I didn't cut that deal. I resigned in protest. Thank you. Folks, corruption is corruption. I don't care which party you belong to, Democrat, Republican, or Independent. Corruption is corruption, and corruption is always wrong. Now, the way that I was raised, when you see something wrong, you don't close your eyes, you don't look away, you stand up, you step up, and you do something about it. Am I right? That's how we do things as Iowans. And unfortunately, there's a lot going wrong in our state now, isn't there? Folks are paying more and more for everything. They're working harder than ever before, and they're still falling further and further behind. And we've got a lot of politicians who are taking a taxpayer-funded paycheck and not delivering for us. It seems to me at a time like this, when folks are really struggling, the last thing they should have to worry about is their hard-earned tax dollars being wasted, misspent, or stolen by corrupt politicians. And folks, that is why the Office of the State Auditor exists. It's supposed to be an independent watchdog for all Iowans, to save your tax dollars. And under Rob Sand, this office has done things the right way. Under Rob Sand, this office has asked the tough questions. He's asked them of Republicans and Democrats alike. He has found a record amount of waste, fraud, and abuse in our state, and he saved Iowa taxpayers, again, regardless of party, millions of dollars. Now the problem is, we've got some out-of-touch politicians like our Governor Kim Reynolds and our Lieutenant Governor Chris Knoyer, who have tried to do everything that they can to limit the powers of the auditor just to do its job, just to go after the fraud, just to go after the corruption, to save your tax dollars. But they're not done there, folks. And what I'm about to tell you is why I want you all to pay attention to a state auditor race this fall, when I know you got a lot of other important things going on. Go Hawks. Sorry, had to say it. They're trying to install Chris Knoyer in there, and if they get her in there, we won't have an independent watchdog anymore, folks. We will have a fox guarding the henhouse. Folks, Chris Knoyer, as the state senator, was one of the folks that voted to gut the powers of the state auditor. Let me say this again. Chris Knoyer tried to stop the auditor from being able to find stolen tax dollars. Why would we elect somebody to be state auditor who's tried to stop the state auditor's office from being able to do its job to audit, to protect your tax dollars? Seems a little crazy to me. As the kids would say, folks, the math ain't mathing. So that's why when folks that I respect in our state, across the political spectrum, encouraged me to run for state auditor, I stepped up to the plate. I'm excited to take my background dealing with complex financials and legal issues, but most of all, standing up against corruption to make sure that you all have a state auditor that will do things the right way. I don't care what party bosses think. I'm not a career politician, and I don't take a dime of corporate PAC money because I'm not going to work for insiders. I'm going to work for Iowans. And so as your state auditor, I pledge that I will go after waste, fraud, abuse, and corruption wherever it is in our state, regardless of party. Thank you. As your state auditor, I pledge that I will work to make sure that the state auditor's office keeps its powers, that we don't let corrupt politicians take away the ability of this office to do things the right way. As your state auditor, I'll work to expand transparency so folks can understand in this critical moment where their hard-earned taxpayer dollars are going. A novel idea, I know. And as your state auditor, I'll work with anyone, Democrat, Independent, or Republican, who believes that accountability and doing things the right way, the Iowa way, matters. Now, when I was growing up, I was raised to understand that Iowa was built on a simple promise. If you work hard, if you follow the rules, and if you treat your neighbors with respect, you deserve to have a good life and to leave things a little better for your kids. Folks, this race is not about left versus right. It is about right versus wrong. It's about pushing back against efforts by corrupt politicians and their mega donors to control the trajectory of the state and to take your money and to stand with the folks in this state who put in the work for this state. Stand with our families, our veterans, our seniors, our workers, our farmers, the folks that work for Iowa. Folks, we literally cannot afford to elect an out-of-touch politician who has tried to stop the auditor's office from taking your hard-earned tax dollars and expanding corruption. Folks, we need to make sure we have an independent watchdog. An independent watchdog who knows who they work for. An independent watchdog who will ask the hard questions of everyone. And an independent watchdog who, when they see corruption, will not blink. That's the job of state auditor. That's the commitment of public service. And that is my promise to each and every one of you. Thank you all so much. My name is Taylor Wettach. I'm running for state auditor. I'd be grateful for your vote November 3rd. And together we can keep an independent watchdog in the office of state auditor. Thank you all. Appreciate it. Thank you guys. Thank you. And with that, I'll take a couple questions. I'm a lawyer who fired myself on principle, so I love hard-hitting questions. Gary, you got a question?
What's the first thing you would do when you're elected auditor?
Yeah. So the first thing that I would do as state auditor, I mean, there's a lot of work to do. People have been telling me that when we get in there, we're going to be very, very busy, folks. But I think one thing that keeps coming up when we're talking with folks, when we're talking with Democrats, Independents, Republicans, we're talking with folks in our urban areas like Polk County and all across the state, because we're traveling all across the state, is folks concerned about what's going on with the school voucher program. A lot of folks are really concerned about that. And we're not saying that folks can't go to private schools, but we are saying that if you're taking taxpayer money, people should be able to know where that money's going. Right now, folks are not being held to the same standards of our public schools. Folks have not had the sort of accountability and understanding of where that money's going that they deserve. And you know, when Rob Sand tried to look at it, they said, well, nothing to see here, folks. Well, you know, if there's nothing to see here, let the state auditor do its job. It's kind of like the Wizard of Oz, folks. They're telling you, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. Well, if they're telling you pay no attention to the man behind the curtain, you should probably look behind the curtain, and that's what we're looking forward to doing when we get in there. Thank you. Yeah, Bobby.
What can we do to help you?
Well, I appreciate that. You know, we're running a real grassroots campaign, folks. We're working really hard to get out there. You know, we just got in this race about seven months ago to this point, which is why some of you might be seeing me for the first time. But trust me, you will see me again because we're working really hard. You know, if you could spread the news, that goes a long way for us. Just spread the news. Just telling your neighbors. Taking a palm card. I think my campaign manager has some palm cards here. If you take a few home with yourselves, give them out to folks you know. That goes a long way. Follow us online at social media. We're on all social media at Wettack for Iowa. You can follow us there, sharing, liking, that sort of thing. Goes a long way. Chipping in if you can. We're a grassroots campaign, as I said. We really depend upon people just giving what they can. But most of all, just telling your folks. There's nothing like hearing from your family, right, who they should vote for. That goes such a long way in terms of getting folks on board, understanding our mission, and all of that. So I'd be grateful for any folks here, if you believe in what we're doing, if you believe in making sure that we're standing up against corruption in our state, regardless of party, to go home, tell your folks, tell your friends, and join us in our fight to make sure we keep an independent watchdog in this office. Thank you. Appreciate it. Sir.
Let me ask you this, with those powers that were taken away, do you think those powers
Yeah, thank you for the question. The question was, with the powers of the state auditor that were taken away in 2023, will we work to restore those powers? So to give you guys a little more detail, right, in 2023, a law was passed to make it more difficult for the state auditor, and we're talking about Rob, but we're really talking about the nonpartisan public servants that work in that office to get the information that they need to complete their audits, right? I mean, again, this is why I say this is not a partisan matter. We're talking about powers that the state auditor, that the office has had under Democrats and under Republicans. These are just the powers of the office. And they didn't like the fact that the office was looking into a lot of the issues that were going on, and they decided to take away some of the ability of the office to get the information necessary to complete its audits. You know, my view is, and if you talk to folks that work in that office, they'll tell you this is true, the greatest threat to that office in 40 years has been the effort to take away these powers. And I talked to Democrats in that office, I've talked to independents in that office, I've talked to Republicans in that office, to the non-partisan public servants working in the office. The greatest threat to the ability to do their job and actually look out for the taxpayer to save you money has been the law passed in 2023. So you better believe that we're going to work to make sure we undo that law. But the thing I want to emphasize, folks, is it shouldn't matter if the governor is the Democrat or if the governor is a Republican. If I'm elected, I'm going to work to undo that law because that's how it's supposed to be done. Because the folks in that office deserve to be able to get the information they need to fight for the taxpayer, and that doesn't matter who's in charge. Thank you for the question. Appreciate it. Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you guys so much. Again, really, really grateful to have you all with us today. We've got a lot of work ahead of us over the next 10 weeks, but we know if we keep on putting in the fight, keep on getting the word out there, we'll be able to keep an independent watchdog in this office. Thank you so much. Please vote for us on November 3rd. Taylor Wettach. Hope you guys have a great time in the fair and go buy something on a stick. Thank you guys. Appreciate it. Thank you.